Lost my family's trust.
Lost my job.
I lost my marriage.
I lost my kids.
Lost a lot of time, you know? A DWI is just a big waste of time.
Hey, loser.
Leave me alone.
When a child shares hurtful comments online, that's bullying. Visit erasebullying.ca to learn how to help your child stand up to cyberbullying.
Yeah, she should totally talk to him. No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. So let's get back to your girl Aunt BZ, Pastor C, and the Chief.
Trump has proven he does not believe in. Now, President Trump on Monday actually just completely dismissed a study produced by his own administration involving 13 federal agencies and more than 300 leading climate scientists warning of the potentially catastrophic impact of climate change. Why? Because he simply does not believe it. 8 years ago, he actually tweeted that the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make the U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. And he also tweeted in 2014, "It's late in July and it's really cold outside in New York. Where the hell is global warming? We need some fast. It's now climate change." So that kind of goes to show how much he really knows about all this. And so then it all leads up to last Wednesday, where he tweeted once again, "Brutal and extended cold blasts could shatter all records. Whatever happened to global warming?" Well, President Trump, global warming does not actually have to do with the heat. It actually refers to the extreme highs and lows that our climate is facing due to the thinning of the ozone layer. So obviously, we should be very concerned about this because the U.S. was actually one of the leading countries in the efforts to, try to combat global warming through numerous environmental processes. And I don't know if you guys knew, but when Donald Trump became president, he actually cut the funding for most of those efforts. So they gave him this report in order to kind of convince him that this was a real issue that needs to be handled because, as I said, we were leading in changing these efforts, and that was his response, that he does not believe in it. It does not exist. It is cold outside, so where's the global warming? What do you guys have to think about that? Have to say about that?
Wow. I mean, what can you say behind that kind of ridiculous talk? I mean,
It's just crazy.
It's clearly something that the scientists are concerned about, and it just kind of, in my opinion, rather, it just looks like it's more about the dollar than the safety of the entire planet or the country. Now, you know, I certainly understand you can only do things within reason. You can't blow your budget on doing a whole lot of things, but you can certainly do a lot of things that will make it better. And it just seems like he isn't willing to do that. And I saw the press conference that Ms. Sanders had, and I know a couple of the networks were fact-checking right as she was saying these things, and it was just amazing. She was saying that there weren't conclusions reached, and you know that it was almost a bipartisan type of report. I mean, it was ridiculous the things that she was saying.
And I don't know how many people realize that when these things happen, you know, Donald Trump ran on this campaign of making America great again in terms of, you know, boosting the American economy. And a lot of our American economy is farmers and their farms, and they are being hit the hardest by this climate change. I mean, in some parts of the country, the climate is changing so much that new diseases are coming about in soil. Cattle aren't surviving. Certain crops that they used to be able to grow are not surviving. And so it's like, you say that you want to preserve these American jobs, but a major industry is being impacted by these views, which is, once again, something that people must not realize.
Well, again, my question for you, then, Bad, is, you know, do politicians sit around to make political calculations on things like this, or do they just work from a point of naivete or ignorance, or all the above?
Well, before Thinbat answers, I just want to remind you that A, we're not dealing with a politician, and B, it was not necessarily the politicians that came up with this theory. It's solely the president. And that was definitely expressed through the article. People on his own administration actually posted this study, along with 13 federal agencies and 300 known scientists, along with their journals and peer reviews. So I really think that this is based solely on his views. I don't know if we should go as far as putting all the politicians in it.
Well, not all the politicians, Ambezi, but certainly this is not exclusive to Trump. You've had politicians before him that challenged the whole legitimacy of the climate, the global warming aspect. And this has been going on for a couple of decades now. I mean, as early as the late 80s and the early 90s, when people were talking about the ozone layer. Remember that, Pastor C?
Yes, sir.
When the ozone layer was the big thing, and they were talking about fluorocarbons and all those other types of things.
Right.
And now here we are, you know, years later, we're having the same discussion within, you know, the appropriate time frame, but you still have that same mentality, like, this is a hoax. You guys have to be kidding me. And then when you look at the pictures of the icebergs breaking in the Antarctic region, all these other things, and people don't seem to understand that that's real stuff. That's not, you know, Hollywood.
Well, if I can share my 2 cents, guys, I do believe this, and I want you guys to see it from this perspective. A lot of times when you are not knowledgeable about something, you cause a diversion, and you belittle the topic that you cannot speak intelligently about. And so, I respect 200% our president, hats off to him, but I would say that there are just some things that he is not knowledgeable of. If we can just agree to that. And so if I am not knowledgeable concerning a particular subject or topic, I'm not going to engage in conversation or discussion about it. And so I think that's what it is. Although other politicians in times past may have ignored that particular issue, I think his thing is to ignore what he cannot speak intelligently about. And that's not the only topic.
Save face.
Exactly. And it's not the only topic that he has caused a diversion about. But when it comes to that, of course, it is serious. It is something that we need to give attention to. However, I'm not going to disrespect the president and say that he is incompetent. I'll just say this with some very colorful words. There are certain things that he's not learned or well learned in certain areas. How about that?
I agree.
Well, yeah.
And honestly, that makes a lot of sense because it's been said over and over again that our president is very self-conscious about what people think about him and what people say about him. And one of the things that people say all the time is all of the things that he's not knowledgeable in. So it wouldn't surprise me if he simply turned down this study or turned down his thoughts on this study simply because he didn't know enough about it. But, at the same time, what worries me is they submitted this study to him in order to give him an opportunity to learn about what's going on.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's one of those things where he's just kind of rejecting it so people can't say anything about it right now, and maybe in private he'll be more open to learning about this, or if he's straight up just pushing it away.
Well, I mean, I want us to consider who we are conversing about, and I want to say this: ignorance in the mind of someone who has an ego is a problem. It becomes problematic and it causes other issues because he's not educated on it and he has an ego. He probably won't give attention to it because it would not cause him to shine or look as if he knows what he's talking about or knows what he's doing. I mean, that's my piece on it.
But go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
I have when you talk about Pastor C, you talk about him not sounding educated on an issue. I'm not trying to be funny, but I haven't seen an issue that he's talked about where he sounds educated on. Even
absolutely,
maybe in some matters of business, maybe. But and you would hope that's being the case, but he doesn't. It's apparent that he doesn't read. There's no research that he's doing.
Sure.
He launches out at the news articles and tweets. Whenever someone kind of takes a swing at him, he's gonna hit back. And they're not even taking a swing at him. They're usually just pretty much saying what he said.
Sure.
Sure. And but he's just, if you're not willing to educate yourself, then especially on these issues, it's just I'd be too embarrassed. But evidently, narcissism has no. Doesn't have that trigger.
There you go. And so, I mean, when you consider that and who we're talking about here, he's a businessman, sure, by far. I think that he won the presidency, from my opinion, off of his popularity, and we didn't have anybody else to really contend with him. But I mean, who we're dealing with, there are a lot of issues that I believe our nation should be concerned about that are being overlooked because his agenda has everything to do with him looking a certain way. His image has to be polished, and he has to talk about things that make him look as if he's intelligent, and that's a very hard thing to do.
Well, and if I could play devil's advocate for just a second, a lot of politicians have their own beliefs, and I don't know, they have things that no matter what you put in front of them, they're going to carry a certain, certain dimension with things. But I think what concerns a lot of people is that, there seems to be a reliance on information that has not been properly vetted. For example, the CIA has made it very clear that they believe the killing of the Turkish reporter was carried out by the Saudis. Now, the CIA, you may not agree with their methodology and so forth and so on, but when they pretty much put that kind of report out there and they're saying this is what we found, and you're not part of the investigation, you don't have an investigative background, and you're saying things like, well, you know, this guy's denied it. I mean, how many guys have you seen on TV, Pastor C, that's like, hey, man, you know, why'd you steal that car? I didn't do it.
Right.
I didn't do it.